Today's video is on our two outermost planets, Uranus and Neptune. We're going to start with Uranus, and we'll start with a quick little brain pop.
No, I don't know. Maybe Uranus? Oh, that's really mature. Dear Tim and Moby, I want to know more about the planet Uranus. From Deanna. Well, Uranus is the 7th planet from the Sun and the 3rd largest in our solar system. It has about 30 moons. A cool thing about Uranus is that it's tipped on its side. Astronomers think that another big planet-sized object must have collided with Uranus early on to cause the tilt. That big 98-degree tilt means Uranus has some pretty crazy seasonal changes. One pole will get a lot of direct sunlight, followed by almost none at all. It takes 84 years for Uranus to circle the Sun. That means it's dark at the poles for 42 straight years. The composition of Uranus is somewhere between the gas giants, Jupiter and Saturn, and the more rocky Earth. It probably has a hard, rocky core surrounded by gases like hydrogen, helium, and methane that turn into a mushy sea on the surface. Right, it's not a surface you could stand on. You see those rings? Uranus's rings are different from Jupiter's and Saturn's. They're more like several skinny rings with big gaps in between. Well, the methane in the atmosphere absorbs red light from the sun, which gives Uranus that blue-green color you see. This is making you hungry. What part?
So we can call Uranus the blue planet, or sometimes people call it actually the turquoise planet or light blue planet because it's pretty pale in color. And it was discovered not until 1781. Its atmosphere is mainly hydrogen and helium and methane. It has more water and less light elements than some of the other Jovian planets. It's twice as far from the Sun as Saturn, so it's very, very cold. One interesting thing about Uranus is it's tipped on its side. Scientists aren't exactly sure why that happened, since no one was here to witness it, but they're pretty sure that a large object hit it early in its formation and knocked it over onto its side. It has retrograde rotation, which means it does not rotate counterclockwise, but rotates clockwise. Its day is only 17 hours, so even though it's very, very large, it rotates very fast, and its year is about 84 Earth years. There are currently 27 known moons of Uranus. The five largest have icy, very cratered surfaces, and we can see the 5 largest right here. So that's it for Uranus. Now we're going to move on to Neptune. And to start with Neptune, we're also going to watch another brain pop.
Dear Tim and Moby, tell me about Neptune. From Ada. Okay, this is Neptune. It's the farthest planet from the Sun. Pluto. Well, Pluto isn't technically a planet anymore, but it does have a weird orbit. Because of that, Neptune is actually farther away from the Sun than Pluto for 20 years out of every 250 or so. Suffice to say that Neptune, the 8th planet from the Sun, is very far away. You would need a really powerful telescope to get a good look at it. Neptune is a gas giant, like Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter. It's actually slightly smaller than Uranus. It's still pretty big, though, about 4 times the diameter of Earth. An interesting thing about Neptune is that it was predicted before it was actually seen. Astronomers observing Uranus noticed that the gas giant didn't quite move like it was supposed to. They surmised that there might be another planet nearby influencing Uranus with its gravity. Someone eventually decided to look for this planet and discovered Neptune. We've learned a lot about Neptune from photographs taken by the Voyager missions. Neptune is really cold because it doesn't get much sunlight. That dark blue spot there is a storm system big enough to swallow the Earth. Neptune's composition is a lot like that of Uranus. It has a small rocky core surrounded by a deep ocean of liquid and gases. Methane is what gives Neptune its blue color. Neptune has some strange rings. They're really narrow, and the particles kind of bunch up, so they're thicker in some places than others. We're not quite sure why, but it might be a gravitational pull from tiny moonlets in between the rings. That's Neptune's big moon, Triton. Neptune has more than a dozen moons. Triton's an interesting one, though. It's the only major moon in the solar system with a retrograde orbit. That means it orbits Neptune in the opposite direction that Neptune rotates. Many astronomers think that Triton was captured by Neptune sometime after the gas giant was formed. Eventually, tidal forces will cause Triton's orbit to decay completely, and Neptune's gravity will tear the moon apart. Yeah, I'd like to see that too. But it won't happen for at least another 10 million years or so. Hey, maybe they could freeze me.
So there are just a few things that I'd like you to write down about Neptune. We can call Neptune the other blue planet, but as you can see, does appear different than Uranus. Even though they're both blue, Neptune is a much deeper blue, and we also see some visible bands of belts on the surface there. Or I guess not the surface, up in the atmosphere. Neptune was not discovered until 1846, so we could say it's the most recently discovered planet. It is similar to Uranus's atmosphere, so we have some hydrogen and helium, but also some methane there. And remember that the methane is what makes both of these planets appear blue. We see some visible belts of clouds here, and you can also see some banding, kind of like we see on Saturn and Jupiter as well. So there's convection happening here, and winds and cloud belts. Again, surface temperatures are going to be very, very cold because it's so far away from the sun. Its day is about 16 hours, and its year is 164 Earth years. Neptune does have about 13 moons at the current count. Triton is the largest moon, and it's probably the most well-known moon. It has a south pole covered with a cap of ice and very dark material erupting from underneath it. Triton is the only moon in the solar system to have retrograde rotation, and it's also the 7th largest moon. Scientists think that it's possibly a captured object from the Kuiper Belt, and its surface is mostly nitrogen with some frozen water in its icy crust there. It's also geologically active. It's one of only a few moons in the solar system that are geologically active. And like Enceladus, we have cryovolcanic activity. So we have some volcanic activity, but instead of spewing forth lava rock like we see here on the Earth, it's spewing forth frozen materials. So that's it for our video on Uranus and Neptune. Thanks for watching.